As the magical day grows nearer, my head fills with classic images and icons of Halloween: pumpkins, witches, black cats, and of course, bats. These winged, reckless denizens of the night. There are a lot of myths about bats just skittering around out there. And so on this week's Brilliant Tidbit, I'm going to do my best to separate fact from fiction. So get ready to take flight into the dark and learn more about these amazing creatures on this week's Brilliant Tidbit. I'll check you out to the intro. I'm Alan Brill. Welcome to Brilliant, a podcast from the mind of Brill. Warning, it gets dark in here. That's right. As Halloween approaches, we're getting batty on this week's Brilliant Tidbit. This is just a little morsel, just a little thought snack to tide you over between main shows. And like I said, this week's we're talking bats. Now, how did bats become associated with Halloween in the first place? There's one theory that the Celts built huge bonfires on Samhain, the pagan festival in which Halloween has its roots. And, as anyone who's ever sat around a campfire knows, that campfires attract insects. And insects attract bats. And so the theory goes that the Celts saw the bats swooping around the campfires and mistook them for spirits of the dead. Because I guess, they'd never seen bats before or since. That's the only time they ever noticed them. That's pretty far-fetched, if you ask me. Now, Nate Fuller, who's a member of Boston University's bat biology program, has a much more reasonable theory. Scottish and Irish immigrants who came over in the 1800s, they brought many of the customs and holidays with them, including Samhain. And many of them settled in the Northeast. And they would have noted the migration of the bats as they headed south every fall. And that would, mark the beginning of the season for Samhain. And that sounds more likely to me. They see the bats coming, like, oh, all right, it's getting that time of year. So I think that's probably why we associate them with Halloween. One of the reasons. They also have a great association with witches, and witches are clearly associated with Halloween. So we'll get into that a little bit more. Bats are considered omens by a great many cultures, and oftentimes these omens completely contradict each other. But let's look at some of them. If a bat flies around your head 3 times, you're donezo, man. Sorry. And don't think you can just duck inside the house real quick and prevent this, because if the bat circles your house 3 times, once again, it's game over, man. It's game over. In Europe, if a bat flies into your house, it means death is coming. And in parts of Illinois, if a bat flies inside your house and stays for a long period, it means that death is going to occur in that house. However, if it flies in and leaves immediately, it means one of your relatives is going to kick off. In New Mexico, a bat in the house means someone will die in 8 days. But in Midwestern states, you get 6 months. So it's all depends on the region. There's a lot more of these things, and many of them completely contradict each other. It's I'm gonna just read a bunch of the folklore and about bats as omens, but there are just so many. So I'm not going to get into all of them. And this goes for the rest of the superstitions that I cover about bats tonight. There's there's just a whole slew of them, and like I said, most of them completely contradict each other. So I'm just gonna give you a little taste before moving on. It's a tidbit anyway. That's all you get to taste. Seeing a bat at night brings good luck, but spotting one in the daytime portends bad fortune. Bats usually aren't out during the day, and it could be bad things. If you see one, you might be sick. Now, if the bat you see falls on you, somehow, good luck. It's great. Unless, if the bat's, landed on you, you run into the house, then bat in the house, you're going to die. If a bat flies into your bedroom and lands on something, even just for a moment, good luck. If that same bat flies into your kitchen and hangs from the ceiling, good luck. If it swoops in during a wedding ceremony, that's bad juju for the wedding, bad juju for the marriage. Killing a bat will shorten the life of the person who killed that bat, and I assume also shortens the lifetime of that bat as well. In medieval Europe, bats and witches and witchcraft were all tied together, and people thought that they were witches' familiars and they could carry messages back and forth with the devil. People also believed that bat blood was used by witches in their flying spells. If bats are seen near a person or their home, then, must be witches. Must be a witch lives there. And people think that a witch lives there, then that's never ended well, ever. Now, I kind of get the supernatural aspect given to bats, because they're liminal creatures. They come out at dusk and they fly back in at dawn, and in between times, and anything that exists in the liminal state is prone to be given supernatural qualities, because in the liminal spaces, that's where the magic is, in these transition spaces. Saying that, now some cultures consider bats guardians of the night, and they hold secrets that can only be found, that are only known in between the worlds. I really dig that one. Some cultures believe they're physical manifestations of the souls of the dead, and in parts of Mexico, it's believed they can carry messages from the dead. And of course, thanks to our man Bram Stoker, they are forever connected to vampire. And this idea is introduced by him, and it's been reinforced by infinity movies and books and everything. So bats and vampires are now just linked together for all time. Let's see if we can separate some myths and facts. There are 1,400 species of bats worldwide. They're on every continent except Antarctica. One bat, a single bat, can eat up to 1,000 insects a night. So if you have a mosquito problem, put up some bat houses. Attract a colony of bats. It's extremely beneficial to the neighborhood. They will clean them out. I mean, one bat, 1,000 mosquitoes a night. It's a good deal. National Park Service estimates that bats save $3.5 billion. That's with a B. $1 billion a year in pest control. They also pollinate 700 different plants, such as bananas and avocados. So helping bats helps ensure that we get delicious guac, and that's important to me. If a bat dies, the other bats will help care for its young, for the little orphan bat. They all gather together as a community. It's pretty cool. there's a common myth that a bat will fly into your hair and get so tangled up in your hair that they have to be cut out, and that a bat caught in your hair will also drive you mad. This is false. Probably it originates from the belief that bats have poor eyesight, which is also false. In fact, they got excellent eyesight, and you combine that with their echolocation, it means their senses are so enhanced that they can detect and avoid a single hair, let alone a head full of it. Another myth out there is that bats are prone to carrying rabies. In a study by the University of Florida, they found that less than 1% of bats carry the disease. And the odds of being bitten by a bat are already pretty low, and when you match that up with the odds of that bat having rabies, the chances of you catching rabies from a bat are almost absurd. That being said, if you get bit by a bat, go get treated for rabies. It's not how you want to go out. And they say that if you wait until you show symptoms of the disease, it's already too late. So yeah, get bit by a bat, play it safe. Better safe than dead. Bats aren't rodents, not flying rats. And there is a myth out there that a bat bite never heals. And there's actually some truth to this one. Vampire bat saliva contains an anticoagulant that stops clotting when it feeds. Bats are commonly linked with insanity, at least in language. The phrase "bats in the belfry," "batty," or "batshit crazy," or as I like to say here on Brilliant, "guano loco." I reckon this is just because the erratic flight patterns, they fly all crazy. I really dig our nocturnal friends, and I hope you found this week's tidbit about the world of bats interesting. So, here's to the flying guardians of the night, delivering messages from the dead and massacring mosquitoes. Long may they fly the liminal spaces. Some of these facts I just lazily found online. But the bulk I got from the Backroads Lore, Book 4, Strange Harvest. Chad Lewis, David Weatherly, and Kevin Lee Nelson do awesome work, and I highly recommend you check them out. This is book 4 in their series, the Backroads Lore books. It's a fantastic cover too. The whole series is excellent. They've done several other things together and separately, and they're really good. So definitely check them out. And we're gonna wrap up this week's episode on bats, and I'll talk to you next week, and you don't want to miss it.